Hello, world. Can you hear me now? I'm going to do a quick sound check and make sure we're here today. Okay, Dr. Rick Alan Miller is joining me today. This is Theresa J Morris. We're doing Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com today. So, I've got this show down. Let's see. Dr. Rick Miller, can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. We're on. So thank you for joining me today. Now, you're in Oregon, are you not?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, we are live and recording, so I have to tell you that. So we're doing a live recording, folks, right here with our wonderful RR family, our Revolution Radio family today, Dr. Rick Miller. And Dr. Miller has been well known in radio for many, many years, and he's been with me at least the last 2 years on and off, and maybe longer, because 18 and 19 went by really quick. But yeah. Doctor, you also are an entrepreneur and have owned several businesses, but I believe you've become well known because you help train so many people in various groups with the military, the government, the men that saw ghosts, so to speak, and then X-Files helped with some of those stories. And then also you've had a retail store in entrepreneurial that way. Then you own a lot to do with, I guess, books and writing books, but there's all kind of stories out there with you in management. So I'm not sure which you want to use today, but I did see that you've created a new book, and I am going to go over and look that up right now because that's new for you. And are we going to discuss why don't you tell people about your books, and then we'll start.
Let me give you a brief history. During the 70s, I had 3 retail stores in Seattle and a wholesale house of herbs. And then I had an occult bookstore. The reason I had the occult bookstore was to get access to books and research papers that the Seattle Public Library couldn't get a hold of. And because of the work I was doing for the military and paranormal studies. The 3 stores that I had, retail stores, still exist in Seattle. One was up in Wallingford, is now known as the Cold Mountain Juice Company. That was a wholesale and retail herb store. I had one down in Pioneer Square. And then a third one was in the public Pike Street Market. And all 3 are still there, working 40 years later. Today I'm retired. I'm in my late 70s, and I write books and for the military. And
do you have your video on? I can see your picture, but not your video.
I'm going to put it on right now, if you'd like. Okay.
Yeah. Let's record today.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
You're much younger than I thought.
Younger.
Much younger.
Yeah, I'm 76, so I'm just in excellent health. I posted something on Facebook to that regard, too. 1 in 4 people in Oregon is obese. We're not talking about fat. They're obese, way, way overweight. And it's all about dietary choices in terms of what we choose to eat and why. And I've always maintained that Gurdjieff had his best concepts of eating your environment. If you lived in the coast, you ate fish, which I just had some. I had some cod. Or if you lived in the Midwest, you ate grain. And having to do with habitat and balance with your environment. So.
Well, now we can go back. I want to make sure that I'm saving the notes that you sent me, and I put your picture up on our ACO Club, and I want to make sure I've got your various websites and links up for our people. Now, you do have richardallenmiller.com, and can we get your books there?
Website. Yeah, that's my primary website now. The Northwest Botanicals is closed. I've retired. I have other websites like Sustainable Lifeboat, but I'm not maintaining those. Just Richard Allen Miller right now.
That's good enough. All right. And I've got Theresa
J.
Morris.
Facebook presence also.
All right, so we do a lot of social media, and so now let's look at what led you to write this book, Earth Pulse Press, and Nick Beggett. Should we start there?
Sure, we could.
Okay.
Nick was the individual that brought me back into writing. He invited me up to his home, and we spent 3 weeks attempting to write a new book called The Brain Spa. He was not technically capable of doing that, so what ended up happening was that I wrote Power Tools for the 21st Century, which was a sequel to the book he published, which was the first protocol for Navy SEALs when I trained Navy SEALs. ESP induction through forms of self-hypnosis. Now, back then, both ESP and hypnosis were pseudosciences. Today, ESP is known to be thinking with the gut or instinct, and hypnosis is a very powerful tool in dentistry and other pain control situations. So we were using neuro-linguistic programming as part of the training. The SEAL Team 1, at that time, I worked out of anesthesiology. We were, the team that I chose were measured. I wanted individuals to train that were intuitive. And so I measured their ESP. And out of 250,000 plebes that we did a questionnaire on, we ended up with a small group. And SEAL Team 1 was 8 individuals. And they were all working very high-end intuitive individuals. Every single one of them had a PhD. It's different now. The SEAL teams, after SEAL Team 4, they started changing a little bit. But the first 3 SEAL teams were smaller and were mostly nerds rather than spooks.
I worked with SEAL Team 8. They had pyramids.
No idea about what the current. Yeah.
I wanted to swim and all that, but they wouldn't let me being a woman. But I did wind up doing some things sort of like a contract on the side. So I guess there's a lot of, I don't even know where we are in SEAL teams. To you, is it a 13, 21? I don't know.
I have no idea. But SEAL Team 1, basically, my martial arts came from having grown up in the streets of the Philippines in the late 40s. I was a small child. My mom worked Indochina theater for Kodak. At that time, it was alkali halide, and she stuck me in Buddhist missionary schools, and I was Caucasian, and so I learned how to fight on the streets because I was Caucasian. I also learned how to play chess on the streets. And when I came to Seattle, where I grew up, John Leong, my stepfather put me into school there, and he had 4 students. There was Bruce Lee, Skip Ellsworth, Fred Williams, and myself. And I learned a very rare form of Hung Gar. It's a type of Hung Gar. It's different. It's Northern Shaolin. And I became very good. Where my martial arts went into paranormal levels was when I had the rare opportunity of studying with Chan to Chung. He was a Chan Buddhist that came down out of Victoria and taught Tai Chi as a martial art above Dr. Bastier's Naturopathic School of Medicine. And the secret that he taught me was how to change my perception of time with breath control. And that's where my martial arts then took a whole major turn, and I became world champion in the 8th movement of Tai Chi, which was double sword.
Let me see if I can get a Mad on here to say hi to you, and let me see if he can. I don't know.
I really like him. He's a nice person.
Yeah, he's been really busy, but I think he said I could ring him because he does good graphic design. It says unavailable, calling him Ed Painter.
I have plans on that. Just my apologies for not getting back to him. I have been inundated and tangented.
Oh, okay. It says he's unavailable, so that's okay. I guess he thinks we're doing okay or would know about it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
My very best to him. Happy New Year to you.
Now, as far as I know, we're recording, and I need to make sure. Let me look in this. Now,
there's a note there that says you are recording this call.
Okay. Good. And then let's see, Mad Painter. I just want to make sure that I'm heard in the studio because I can't see if I am, and that would be hard to start all over again since I am personally recording this, but I want to ask somebody in the Revolution.Radio room if anybody's in there. I was going to check and make sure that we are loud. I'm not coming on the show. Okay, Ahmad, can you hear me though? Am I live? Because remember I just checking to make sure of the sound to check on sound check. The reason is Ahmad's busy and he's feeling bad, I'm sure. Bless his heart. But I've been working with him and Janet for years, but I get a little nervous when I have to use my own equipment and not have a producer. So I'm producing it myself. I just wanted to make sure, but I'm sure he would tell me if he couldn't hear us. But what it was is I was just checking in on that particular website. Are you okay then, Dr.?
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I still haven't checked to see. Let me try one more time. Revolution.Radio, folks, is who we do this with.
Screen. Yeah, you can share screen.
Yeah, I'm going to share a screen and look real quick and hit the button and make sure we're recording. Yeah, we're online. Perfect. All right. Then I feel very comfortable now with you, Doctor. I just didn't want you and me to be recording here on my computer. And then a man saying, well, we couldn't hear you because it happened to me the other day. I've gotten new equipment and I don't trust reality. It sounds funny, but it's just, I'm sure you've had it where you've had 2 or 3 screens pulled up and think everybody's listening and there's nobody there. It's one of those things with Skype, so, or have some other screen. All right. So everybody, we're doing fine. And I'm real happy that I did this. And he's taking my training wheels off. I think he's doing this to me intentionally, saying, I know you can do this without me, TJ. Okay. He knows this is like, I get a little nervous, but thank you, Dr. Rick. He likes you, and he's been a little under the weather. And since I don't know, you did know that Mike Ringley passed away, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I'm very, very sorry to hear that.
Yes, and so
everything fell onto Don. Yeah.
Yeah, and so lots fell on the responsibility for all the managers who are like one big family. Of course, 6 to 8 of them. And Terry, I've known Lady Horse from the beginning, and Willow and Dreesen, but Ahmad Painter was so nice in the managers meeting, and he took me on after a couple of weeks, maybe. Terry Ackerman in Michigan. You may know her because haven't you been on shows with Ahmad before me?
Yes, I have, but for things that he produced. He did a few shows with me and then became a producer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, good. So you've known him a long time. Now, was he able to, were you able to contact him regarding grabbing?
I haven't had time to. That's the problem. I've been so tangented during the holidays that I haven't had time to get back to him yet.
I understand.
I will be, just right now I'm overwhelmed.
All right. Well, he was a very good graphic designer.
Yes, I do.
Yes. So he's available to you for your books if you need them. Not that he does good work. Now, let's get back to you so that if anybody wants to help us, we'd appreciate you paying attention to us on Revolution.Radio. And if that's not available to you, freedomslips.com. And we'll be here every Thursday. And Dr. Rick Miller is an old friend, apparently, of Ahmad Painter, Thomas R. Becker, also known as T.R. Becker, who is our general manager now, working with a big team of managers to help all of us. All right. Now we can go on with your story. And Doctor, you've got so many people out there that follow you. I just want you to know that when you've done my TJ Morris ET Radio on another channel, I've had the most hits that I've ever had of anyone with you. Wow. Even more than Richard Dolan.
I'm honored. I'm not a big deal. I never thought I would be a person of interest in that regard. I was always an asset with the military. When I was a child, old man DuPont actually came to my high school graduation.
Wow.
And had his eye on me since I've been in high school. And then when I went to Washington State University, he actually came to Washington State, was there at my graduation, and brought me back to Wilmington, where I went to work for him. And the rest is history in terms of Navy intelligence, working out of anesthesiology. And I'm
Were
basically...
you a contractor, or were you GS, or strictly because you were so intelligent
I
they
was a
pulled you
GS
into a
18.
project?
Yeah, my highest rating was a GS 18. I was
And
equivalent to a 2-star general.
that's as high as you could get as a civilian, was it not, at that
Yeah.
time?
Yes, there is no rating above GS 18. That's correct.
Okay, so that's amazing. I don't think I've ever met one. You're probably the first. As even though I worked in the government, well, I worked with some people. I think General Saint with the Army, and I had admirals when I was working SINCPAC Fleet in the Pacific Fleet in Hawaii. But I really, I'm really shocked. Now, what was this all intelligence? How were you classified?
I'm a physicist.
Oh, a
Basically,
physicist. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I've actually got several doctorates in physics, anesthesiology, Harvard Medical, and Jungian psychotherapy. So I'm a number of different doctorates in different broad categories. My primary expertise is in agriculture. I'm basically your MacGyver. I've written a bunch of books with Chuck Walters. My first work out of graduate school was at Boeing, working with Lunar Base Alpha 1, growing pot on the moon.
Seriously?
I was growing indica, cannabis indica back in 1970 with Art Pilgrim in what they called the Space Center. Back then it was the Boeing Scientific Research Laboratories in South Park that later moved to Kent and became the Space Center. And
Wow.
we had clean room standards. I was growing indica because of the light. We have always needed hemp because of the fiber for sailcloth and rope. The CBDs and the medical aspects of marijuana are more recent. And now the book I co-authored with Chuck Walters that's unpublished is Hemp as a Virgin White Paper. Its better use will be than poplar, that, your cottonwood that they would grow down on the Columbia River when they coppice the 15 feet every year for fiber. And the virgin white paper is going to be the future of marijuana.
Well, I wanted to, since this is 2020, I'm going off the record here, but, well, maybe not, because we are recording this, and I did tell you that. So, but do you think that with the, I heard some scuttlebutt back when I was living in Kentucky before my husband died, that a lot of the tobacco growers they'd go over to Europe and they didn't have the buyout like they used to, with Phillips Hedges and all, the big names, Benson Hedges, blah, blah, blah. But so now I heard before I came down here in 2016, so it's been 3 or 4 years, that the Americas were planning with the government to start encouraging hemp sales. Now, I don't know which kind, but do you know anything about it?
Yeah. During World War I and World War II, of course, Kansas and Missouri were large producers of hemp because there isn't anything better for sailcloth or rope. And that's that. And the problem is the illegal part of it in the Uniform Controlled Substance Act, which categorized it the same as cocaine or methamphetamine, and it's not. And it does have value, just like methamphetamine does for anaphylactic shock, what they call the EPEN, using ephedra. And that would be, ephedra is different than Mormon tea. I'm a world authority in herbs. I was one of their cooks. Rather than using phenyl-2-propanol and methylamine to produce methamphetamine, I was the scientist that created anhydrous ammonia and sodium metal using a bomb, or where we would use it inside a vacuum.
Wow.
Yeah, I studied with Timothy Leary. I got to know Bill Osley. I'm a polymath. There isn't anything I can't understand. And so off I went. I find it interesting that you would find, we did in the laboratory next to mine, Dr. Moore was doing ketamine, telepathy, and BZ gas studies. At the time I was doing my studies with the military. And Delgado was in the lab next to mine on the other side doing chip implants before he went back to Yale. That's the place I grew up. Now, that was in Seattle.
Seattle, Washington?
Yes, at the University of Washington, Department of Anesthesiology and the School of Medicine, yes.
Whoa.
Now, I worked under John Benica before Hameroff was even born. And we were doing acupuncture studies at that time and came up with the concept of microtubules as a way of conveying chi as a subtle body outside the physical body. Today, in the non-local mind book I'm writing, I'll talk about how microdosing with mushrooms will create. Microdosing of these psychedelics are actually toxins. They're lookalike neurotransmitters that are very similar to the brain, and the brain freaks out when it sees the entry of these neurotransmitters. And what it does is it overproduces its own lookalike chemistry, and these neurotransmitters, like N-N dimethyltryptamine, become resonant cavity oscillators that dialogue with psyche outside the body, subtle bodies like chi. Whoa. And there's actually more than one subtle body. Actually, I'm now beginning to understand there may be as many as 8 different bodies that are related to the physical body in terms of taking psyche into matter.
Is there 7 plus the observer on the outside of the 7? Because, metaphysically and spiritually, we always said there were 7, like 7 colors or 7 heavens.
That doesn't mean that that's necessarily correct. It's a way of arbitrarily isolating things down. Base 8 works really nice because of the so-called chi or chakra centers in the body. But there are 42 nadi points where you oils, wax, and oils, waxes, and oils and waxes. They release different oils. The one up in Kathmandu for the Buddhists that make temple ball use the oil on the side of their nose as a bonding agent, where turkey and the scimitar hash would be made with, oil from a fat pig or something of that nature. The oils, fats, and waxes is a whole group of chemistries that are extremely important. I wanted to say that I find it extremely interesting that one of the more arbitrary neurotransmitters that's very rare is found in the most commonest of plants, crabgrass. It's almost as if it's not about chemistry.
That grows in the yard? You mean like the stuff you pull out of your St. Augustine crabgrass? We pulled it up like weeds.
There's Rick Strassman has been doing studies on that out of New York, and up in Ottawa, Persinger or others have done also similar studies. The thing that I find interesting, it's almost as if it's not about chemistry. It's the universe. Roger Penrose was my teacher at Princeton.
Whoa.
And he wrote...
Really?
Yes.
Famous.
Well, he wrote a book called The Geometric Universe. My later contribution is called The Dodecahedral Universe.
Wow.
I'm fine-tuning and writing and footsteps under mentors that I've had through history. I've been very blessed with, the kinds of teachers they trotted out for me. And at this moment, I write in the fields of physics, metaphysics, and the occult, which is occluded or so on, and agriculture. And agriculture, in my opinion, is, I was one of Chuck Walter's pallbearers. He's my friend. And so I've written a whole raft of books. I have a 9-volume encyclopedia on the alternative agriculture. So, I've been writing in these areas for a long period of time. I think that, how do I want to put this it's important. I have been given Albert Schweitzer University, and out of Florida. And Albert Schweitzer University, we're going to turn it into a Harry Potter-like university to teach metaphysics online. And the audiobooks that I currently have were from old chat rooms when PC Link was turning into AOL. What I want to do is update those and then take those lessons and write manga comics for children. And, National Geographic has accepted, in UK for children, has accepted a manga comic which has got 10 comic books to it on structured water called Aqua Girl and the Lost Secrets of Water. And if that flies, then I'm planning to write more comics for children, because I think that our educational systems are in shambles, and it's my personal opinion that children are possibly our most important natural resource.
Of course, our assets, yes.
Now, I don't know where this is all going to lead. It's all very exciting because every day it's a new exposure. The work that I did on geometry, that's what it's about, geometry.
Okay.
It is a type of language. And if you, the work I did in time travel studies with the military, I wrote 3 books that are unpublished on that subject called The Diamond Body, Electromagic, and Yogatronics. And that's because I was using Amora and Endomet, German acupuncture, to dialogue with neurotransmitters on the brain. I had discovered and broken languages so I could talk to specific neurotransmitters. This means I no longer need drugs to get to the same place. And it's my opinion that the laws of physics change with different altered states of consciousness. And what I'm doing now is attempting to map where one state stops and another begins for the laws of physics.
Wow. So scientifically, now you're proving that through your years of study with acupuncture and the nadis, the 42 nadis?
Well, those are oil sacks and waxes. Those are parts in the body that have a unique group of chemistries that are different than neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are in the brain, and in order to dialogue with subtle bodies, you need resonant cavity oscillators, and this is how, in my opinion, this is how psyche is brought into matter. And that's why I would say that imagination is reality.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. So think it, feel it, and will it is what we say in metaphysics, right? Think it.
Yes. But if you can use these neurotransmitters, you now can take placebo from 10% and move it up to 60% with the mind's eye.
Okay.
That's why microdosing with mushrooms is now being studied at Oxford.
Aha. Well, it's pretty well watched outside the country. I knew for sure on the inside the country. So, but the government knows who you are and know that you've been under what clinical, would you say, through the universities, or I'm sure you're watched in the computers.
I have a handler from Putin. Can you imagine? I had the Russian mafia messing with me, and all I had to do is pick up the phone and get that taken off my neck.
Well, really? Because they were monitoring you 24/7 from Russia?
No. The Russian mafia has moved in to take over all the dispensaries here in Oregon.
Oh.
They were already run the long haul, and now they're moving in to take over the marijuana medical dispensaries.
My goodness. So what about China? I thought we were going to be America and China. Now we're controlled by Russia, too.
Actually, Trump says it's China, please.
China.
Live from New York.
China.
Yeah. Well, it's, who knows what's real anymore?
Oh, well, we were talking about that today. What is truth? And, there's the personal truth, political truth, and subjective truth, I guess, or objective.
Well, it's very, that's why man's got choice. That is what is made man God's favored. The diversity of choice. And belief systems are arbitrary. That was a whole chapter in Power Tools, how to change a belief system like you would a pair of clothing to use it as a tool. If you're going to Iraq, it's not very good to go over there as a Christian. Now, that doesn't mean you get rid of your belief system, but like a sweater, you might take it off in the heat of summer. If fold it and put it away for winter use.
Right. I know that my husband in Desert Storm, they had to hide their cross there because they chopped their heads off. They hate Christians and the cross that represents anything to do with Christianity. So not sure if that's good or bad, but those are biases. Well, with your Silk Corp working with ESP, I don't know if you want to answer these questions or not about ESP, but since we're talking imagination, it is important, and that's what I like to share with my friends because so many are artists and writers, and we're doing our best to form this ACO club with people and authors such as yourself that specialize in helping us get to the future based on co-creations with others, if we so choose.
Footprints in the sand. That's what we are. We're not the bottom line. We're simply another footprint for man.
Well, how would you think ESP in the altered states of consciousness, I'm reading this for the average person, but what with the imagination, can you pull that into, it says, what's your next title in this trilogy? Would that be with the ESP models or books?
No, it will be the non-local mind in a holographic universe, how to change the movie. The book that I'm writing in Pathworking is the magical and ritual use of metaphor, archetypal gods in daily living. Once you identify the storyboards going on inside you, you now know how they end. If that's not what you're seeking, that's where you use Pathworking to change the movie. Do it without will be the whole of the law.
So 2020 is really going to be about retraining the trainers that we've been putting out there as mystics, oracles, psychics, sages, seers, and people in metaphysics, right? The sages are
Well, that's it. And there are
mages.
Many roads to Rome. There are many roads to Rome. Magic is the art of changing consciousness at will. It's an art form. And
so that's why the government's been involved. That's why the government likes to control. But you worked with Targ, didn't you? Russell Targ?
No, they were later. I was early.
Later.
Targ was 83 at SRI. I was 73.
My goodness. Wow. So you helped start all of that before the CIA controlled that?
Andrea Puharich was one of my teachers. Bill Tiller, others like that worked under me.
My goodness. Well, you've got a lot to offer all of us, and I really appreciate you giving it free will, and we should provide money to you by your books, which I plan on doing this month. RichardAllenMiller.com, folks, and he's worked with a lot of very important people. Now, a lot of my friends know that I'm coming out in 2020 with my personal story and truth without so much separation of church and state, I guess. But do you believe all of us are programmed? Because some of us were saying that it doesn't matter what comes out of our mouth. We learned it somewhere from someone else.
That's correct. It's archetypally, you are me, and I am you, and I am the walrus.
All right. So if we're all the same and we've learned numbers and volume and words, why is it some of us choices to help each other, such as you and I today, or all of us with Revolution Radio, that some of us may argue about our own principles or our opinions, but really it's all out there. It's all been done already.
Well, opinions and belief systems are arbitrary. That's why they should be considered as tools. When you're doing your true will, that's purpose. That is not intent. Intent is what actually happens at the end of the day. What literally happens is because of wounding and your owies and your behavior as a response to that. If you can turn a wound into a blessing, that's what makes you uniquely different than me. That is where it's all at. Turning the cup to being half full.
Half full to from half empty to half full. Well, then it's really sort of like, who was it? Albert Einstein, or was it? Who was it that said the most important question you'll ever ask yourself in life is the world? Do you fear the world, or You know what I'm going for is the most important question. Maybe it's Albert Einstein that said the most important question.
Why are you here? What is your purpose? Why did you choose to be in this movie in the first place? And really, the reason they call this the Matrix is that consciousness is nothing more than a dream. It's not real. And at the moment of death, you're offered a choice. It is the last choice when you exit Earth. What is that? You find out in the Bordeaux Thedal, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. You have a choice of either the tunnel of light or the blue light. And the tunnel of light reminds me of a birth canal. It's as if we have a virtual reality game that we're playing, and time is a duration of consciousness. It's not real. And so you have as much as, I don't know, 1 million lifetimes to play before you go back home. Now, at the moment of death, there is physically a 5-gram weight loss in the body. That 5 grams of structured water in a microtubule. Structured water is 1 million times more efficient as a memory chip than gallium and arsenic, forming gallium arsenide and the forbidden zone. Your checksum errors. That means there's enough in 5 grams of water to hold the memory of at least 10,000 lives.
So why do some of us remember and some don't?
That's a metaphor.
But why is it? Because I didn't remember or didn't think I had memories until I died. But then a lot of knowledge come rushing in. And then after I died again, more information was added. I could only get to omniverse or to level 5 universally speaking, but now I can get to 7. Now I hear that through people like Michio Kaku or Neil deGrasse Tyson that there's 10 or 13. I don't know if you agree.
It's arbitrary. Those numbers.
Those okay.
Yeah, those numbers are arbitrary in terms of subcategories. In the appendices, there are 8 jhana states or mystical states of union.
Okay.
Higher states of consciousness, a ontology of mystical states that I would refer to as John Curtis Gowan in Trance, Art, and Creativity, his book out of Northridge. And that book, he talks about the prototaxic, the parataxic, and syntactic modes of consciousness.
Only 3?
Prototaxic would be like a shaman. It has a mental dissociation. You can place his consciousness in an eagle and see what the eagle sees.
Right.
The problem is it has no memory of doing that afterwards. Parataxic has to do with dream states and archetypal encounters, where there's a kind of an archetypal memory of somehow being related to it. Syntactic modes of consciousness would include biofeedback, where you can reprogram your parasympathetic nervous system with your mind, or hypnosis, sex magic. You know that the emotional content is how you puncture psyche into matter. And that's why sex magic and tantric yoga have been so revered as a art form, like magic, making something happen by using emotion.
Well, how do you explain to laymen which are listening right now? I use it like, I know physically I've died, but I've come back, and it's okay now for me to talk more logical about it, being logical, but love is supposed to be the answer to everything. I guess this magical elixir.
Not according to Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it?
Yeah, what's love got to do with it?
You know, actually, friendships.
Yeah.
The highest form of love there is. And love comes and goes. Friendships are forever.
Well, I'm starting to like friends, even though I've never had many because I was working alone. But I don't remember that it mattered to me because I was so busy working. Even as a truck driver, I preferred single to training, although I was a trainer and I trained 75 to 150 people at a time, either on the computers, the satellite, or driving in a truck. And I enjoyed it, but working one-on-one while they're training and you're supposed to sleep, that wasn't a good idea because I had to trust my life to another human being.
Then. You're talking about working at duels, where you had two drivers and a sleeper.
Yes, yeah, we'd rotate out. I was a trainer, there'd be a trainee. But
can you imagine in the 1800s, you as a trucker saying, breaker, breaker 17, come on, and what the farmer might have thought you were doing?
That's sort of what I'm going with, because you talked about the three types, and I'd like you to expound more on that, because most of us don't know what you know in layman's terms. And so
Yeah,
you're
it's
those
difficult
three
with language,
types.
but yeah. Prototaxic modes are like shamanistic states where you have totemism and animism. I think our closest uh, relationship to a witch in America would be the American Indian. They work
Okay.
with medicine, oral tradition like Hebrew. They have medicine, which is their songs and dances, and the passing of their stories.
So
The
those are
whale,
rituals,
yeah,
and
rituals
rituals
are
and
the celebration
storytelling.
of a myth, and mythology is the archetypal part. That's why the Greeks had a very high form of science in what we would call soft sciences, dealing with archetypal encounters. And why I'm going to use that as a book of tarot. I'm going to suggest that there are 22 stories in the big city, and you're either possessed, which means you have one story going on, or you're complexed, more than one. And most people have 5 or 6 different stories going on
Yeah,
simultaneously.
I
And
agree.
what your position is to identify what those stories are. Because once you have identified what storyboards you're following, like Psyche at the Well of Souls, or Puer Wounding with Ulysses scarring, then once you've identified that song, what you do is each one has an ending. Is that how you want it to end?
Oh, I get
And
it.
if you don't, then that's what pathworking is about, changing
Ah,
the movie.
okay, gotcha. That they use a lot in counseling, but they
Well,
usually
then
go to
that's
only one.
right. And this is going to be, it isn't right or wrong. It's the next step in the footprints of man leading toward himself.
Is that why we like the movies so much, to entertain ourselves or to pick
Yeah,
the
you have
right
visual
story?
involved so you can see it as well as hear it and sense it.
The feelings are so important,
Yes, it
because
is.
when you're out of body, I don't remember the feelings when I was traveling. When I died, because I saw stars go by and then I heard a voice, so it must be something to our consciousness out of body, just from my
There
own
is.
experiences.
You
But
have that choice at the moment. And if you want to know more about that, the Bordeaux Thedal talks about what happens at the moment of death. And Kubler-Ross and James Hillman, my teachers, would talk about the tunnel of light, which reminds me of birth canal, coming back to finish up another story.
yeah, I get what you're saying. So that I've died several
Time
times,
isn't
but each was
real.
different.
Time
So
travel would be for you to go into a journal and read what you wrote 20 years earlier.
I never
That's
kept
why,
mine properly. My mother
yeah, well,
started me early.
That's why Crowley would call that magical memory.
Ah,
It's a type of time travel. It realigns the brain to that hologram at that moment. The brain itself, upper brain, is a amorphous semiconductor or a liquid crystal that is a 4-dimensional hologram of 5 space. You go to different places in the brain and you have a different movie.
do you believe we have that little crystal that so many people say we do, or that former monks have opened up the brain and seen the little crystal?
Well, that's a metaphor. It
It's a
isn't a crystal.
metaphor.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a metaphor. Yeah, that's not a crystal. It's an amorphous semiconductor. It's constantly in change.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I haven't opened up a brain and looked
We
for
don't
one.
have words to express that concept, so we call it a crystal.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense to me. But some people swear. Now, I don't know where they got the information from, but some of my friends in the years past have said we have it, like the pineal gland is actually a small crystal, or
The pineal
compared to.
gland is right next to the neural cavity. And some work Robert O. Becker and I did is that basically that organ was a light sensitive that adjusted the body to seasonal changes. But because it's essentially atrophied because of artificial lighting. And once, you're not using it. But the chill that goes up and down your body, Sri Aurobindo and Gopai Krishna talk about that. That is actually dimethyltryptamine being released that causes a wave of light in the light band region, visible light band region, going up or down the spine by little cilia, sending a light beam up or down the spine. And if you can position the brain just right, you can stimulate the pineal gland, which sets up a resonant cavity oscillation in the neural cavity. And now with the right diet, you can regenerate nerve tissue rather than glial cell.
So
a type of immortality.
That's amazing that you're saying that. We're getting it recorded now for people to listen to, because in 2020, today's only January 2nd, but this is going to change reality. Now, what about the time-space management with magnets? And I want to stay on the ESP thing for sure, but we're going to have a break here in 10 minutes, about 56. So about 10 minutes. But do you have any knowledge on the latest on the for 2020, because so many people want to know about disclosure? We'll stay with the ESP part, but with regarding gravity, and you take a battery and you put copper wire.
I posted 2 articles, one yesterday and one today, on what happened in 2019 and what is proposed for 2020.
Okay.
On Facebook.com/DocRamCom /.
DocRamCom?
Yes, it was originally DocRam.com was a website that I incorporated into Facebook.
Okay, I'll have to grab that and put it on your page for my club, ACO Club.
DocRamCom.
DocRamCom. Even if I come back, I usually come back and listen to study and take notes of what I've recorded.
Well, if you can even get half of what I'm saying right now, you're doing better than most.
Well, thank you. You've got a lot of information to put out there. That's why I've always enjoyed it. I know Ahmad and Janet have too, and I'm sure they'll have you again on their shows in 2020, because we love you so much, because you're just so free and giving. You're a very giving soul. You are. You're very giving.
I know that I don't know. I'm a seeker,
humble,
just like you are. And I started meditation and training my mind back in the 70s when I met Sharon Singh. I'm a Satsangi.
What's a Satsangi?
Satsangi. Well, it's
sorry, I can't even say it.
Sangii. Satsangi. Satsangi has to do with Sant Mat. SANTMAT. 2 words. Path of the Masters. In the 14th century, a bunch of holy men got together and they said, we know what we disagree on. What is it that is a common thread? And so Sant Mat is a householder yoga. It's not a religion. In training the mind, where there's some rules. You're not supposed to have sex out of wedlock. You're not supposed to eat anything with a face or grandparents. You're not supposed to this and that.
Okay.
And the most important is that you're supposed to spend at least 1/10 of your life training your mind. And I've been meditating every day since then, trying to train my mind.
So how much time would that be? Of course, it's hypothetical depending on how long you live. That's with hindsight, which we're doing in 2020, right? Is we're supposed to gather all our hindsight thoughts and grow up now.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually a process, and Simon says you can only go halfway to the door.
For 10 years?
Which means it's not about growing up. It's a process.
So we can all be Peter Pan after all.
Yeah.
The Peter Pan syndrome.
It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. Okay. Well, there's a lot to do, and we're going to run out of time, but 5 or 6 minutes, and then we'll have a break. But can we just real quickly say a layman's term for, are we living in a holographic universe, or how does it differ from the quantum universe?
Quantum universe basically is taking something analog and digitizing it, and then you have Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, where the more you know about one thing, the less you know about something else. That's based on space and time, which are constructs and not real. A holographic universe has its own belief systems, and that is a universe based on information and resolution of information. Like the emotional plane is the physical plane with more detail, how you feel about it.
So are you going to be able to You're going to, when we come back, we'll talk more about your master class, but I really, I want to have more information to talk about for the next hour, but you will be teaching, it looks like maybe this fall, talks and workshops via Skype like we're doing now and recording live.
Yep.
Okay.
It'll be an online university for adults, and then I'm going to take those lessons and try to manga comic them for children.
All right. Well, we charge $25 a week for our classes at the ACO Club, so I hope I can help you out there, but we'll have to see how many people we get involved, but I'll definitely be there,
with
folks.
The Albert Schweitzer University.
Oh, you're going to go direct with, is that the one you said in Florida?
Yes.
Oh, they're sponsoring your shows or your teaching?
It's a university that has been given to me, all the paperwork, as a 501c3, and I'm going to convert it into a Harry Potter-like university for adults.
Okay, here in Florida.
I'm going to use the teachings of those for children.
Wonderful. Well, what about us adult children that still would like to learn?
Then you can read the comics as well as go to the school.
Okay. Well, I guess you'll be able to go to a lot of those events in like Comic-Con now.
I will send you a comedy that I have of what a more inner city like school on metaphysics might imply.
Huh. Well, I know we're all learning now, and everyone seems to be learning that, even the kids, they have different places.
We take our break. I'm going to go over to my other computer, and I'll send you that as something you might want to upload. I'll go do that now. How's that sound?
Well, it's got 4 minutes yet. Let's see. But we got 4 minutes, but whatever.
Right, I'll do that when we take a break. I'll go send.
Yeah, because we'll. All right. Well, 4 more minutes. Then.
Like, I think everybody would enjoy that.
Oh, you got something you want me to play? Is it legal?
Yeah, it's a video. I'm going to send you a 4-minute video comedy on my university.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Too bad we didn't have that plate pulled up already.
Well, we're going to send that to you now since it became part of the subject.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I'm learning every day.
You, and then you figure out how to play
it. Gee. Well, we'll figure. Well, yeah, if we can do that, I'll see. Normally, I'd have to record it and re-up, but hell, we'll figure it out.
We'll see. Yeah.
Because normally, if not, I can do something else. I've got to use. I use Spreaker and Audacity, but that's because it's easier to upload things. But I'm learning all the time. I've got to go get 2 more computers out so I can run more than one at a time.
And I had a Sifu once that made a distinction between learning and studying something.
Of course.
When you study it, you make it part of your thing, and it's uniquely different than anyone else.
Well, I'm listening to you now, and I can't get enough of you. I never have been able to, so at least I get to see you. So this is great. 2020, this is awesome, folks. I get to see him, and we're moving, and it's so different than written or even radio. He's putting his finger up his nose. But you'll be able to see this in radio. But I'll put this on our YouTubes, too. We've got Revolution Radio Club, and Ahmad and I are making
to the other computer right now. You go ahead and close down. I'll send that to you right now.
All right. Well, whatever you need to do, yeah, because he's going to go do that, folks, but we're still on. But I think I've still got roughly 2 minutes because I'm on a fixed time frame, as most of our radio hosts and managers know, when we do Revolution Radio, and I'm really happy to be a part of this family. So instead of afterwards, maybe I'll just tell you that we do have Revolution.Radio back up. We're really proud of that, because in that way we get to be Revolution Radio, and then we can advertise the name, and it's so much easier. So, it's sort of, well, for me, like my name .radio, it's out of Europe. It's controlled like .com, .net, .org, .club, .tv, and around the world they've divided up who can control these places, these addresses in the world on the internet. So actually a certain group in Europe has this out of Belgium, and they have the .radio. So we have to apply and request and prove we're this or that, or a big company or a name person or a radio club. And so fortunately 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know the details, but I do remember Matt telling me we had freedomslips.com because there was trouble getting the Revolution in the beginning, but Mike stuck with it. And Ahmad was very proud that we were able to go ahead and purchase the Revolution.Radio because it serves our purpose as a radio club, so to speak. And then I just got the little website, which is like a little blog name, Revolution Radio Club, just to serve if we want to put like some of these that we do want to record later. Now, Mad liked us to, Mike liked us to record and put them in the archive. So I'm hoping we're going to be doing that. But let me go check. We should just about be ready to go on a break. And so I've got to pull this up and see if I'm ready to go on a break, which, like I was going to say, in my family here, I have no control. Sometimes we have to give up control to get control, right? So let's see if the music, here it comes. Wow. It was right, Lady Horse, or Mona, or whoever was talking today. It is 3:56, so number 56. So 57. Be back in about 1 after, I think. 4 minutes or so. Here we go. Heard the beat. Thank you, everybody. Be back soon.
There, I just sent it to you. Did you get it? I just sent it to you.
Let's see. Stand by. We're on a break. We have to not talk.
Yeah,
but I'll look.
It's worth playing. I'm going to try to see if I can't play it on my side here.
Would you mute your mic until we come back? Thank you.